Welcome, everyone. My name is Brittany McKenna. I'm with i3 Business Solutions. I'm just helping coordinate the event. You will probably hear me at the tail end of the presentation as well to help with the drawing. Welcome to Microsoft Copilot and AI, First Steps for Your Business. I just want to point out a couple things at the top of your screen. There is a Q&A button, so if you at any time during the presentation want to submit a question for our presenters, you can use that Q&A button up there. I will be shortly sending out a resource announcement, so there will have some resource links there that you can use during the presentation. We will be sending a follow-up email afterwards with those resources as well. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and pass it off to our opening presenter, who is Mike Ritsema.
All right, thank you, Brittany. Yeah, Mike Ritsema here with i3 and joined by Brian Abraham. Will be delivering the Microsoft Copilot and AI First Steps for Your Business presentation. It is being recorded in the Q&A. I think this will take about 60 minutes. We have a lot of content, including videos and examples and stories and so on. So the Q&A, hopefully we get to it. And if we don't, we can follow up directly with you. We're going to go through the history of AI, policy governance, security and reputation, use cases, productivity, licensing, and then what are your action items, your next steps. Oh yeah, we are having a drawing. Those that stay with us to the end of the presentation will be in the drawing, and that would be prospects and clients of i3 Business Solutions. I love to look at the impact of tools and technology, the history of technology. And I say technology marches on, and there's nothing new under the sun here. I mean, if we go back we go back to when I was at Calvin College and doing research. How did we get work done? We pulled books off the shelf. We tried to find the right book, and then we researched to find the information. Physical use of books to find information. Brian, you were recently in New York, right?
Yeah, fun experience at the New York City Library, great historic building, doing a tour with a family and my kids. And there was a kind of a closed off fenced in area where they were doing renovations. And I saw lines of wooden card catalogs. And I was like, oh my gosh, I forgot about card catalogs. That's how you used to navigate the library. So I had to explain that concept to my digital native kids, and they were horrified by it.
Me too. It's mind-numbing. I was trained in that, a skill many do not experience today. And then 40, 50 years ago, along came the mainframe and mid-range AS400 computers, and we had centralized computer systems with dumb terminals, and we used report writers, and we had to pay programmers to dig information out of these systems. And then somewhere around 30 years ago, client-server technology came on board from Microsoft and Novell and others. And we had smart devices on the desktop hooked to servers in the, blue screen of death with Microsoft NT. So we had databases on premise now. And then somewhere around 20, 25 years ago, the cloud starts rising, the internet, the World Wide Web, and we now don't have to go to the library or pull the encyclopedia off the shelf that we bought for $400 to $600 to get the answers. We could actually search the web. And the World Wide Web went to the point to, if you search today, you're going to get 100,000 to 1 million results. So what do we do today? We look at that card catalog and we pick, okay, I'm going to look at Wikipedia, then I'm going to pick 2 or 3 other trusted sites, and I'm going to do my research, create whatever I'm creating, research, and move forward. And we moved, so that moved us from this folder system, the server on premise, which was hierarchical. We put folders and subfolders. We know where stuff is saved, to a search world. And now we're in the iteration of artificial intelligence. It is nothing more than the progression of applications and programming languages to, report writers, data cubes, databases, advancing forward to the point that we can iterate with technology. And the technology doesn't give us a list. It summarizes the information of 1 million websites, distills it down, and we can dialogue with it and improve the answer we're looking for. Nothing new under the sun. Technology marches on. But what are we trying to do in business? 4 things. I'll talk about 3. Risk maybe being one of the highest ones, but we need to make money in order to be sustainable and pay the bills and improve productivity or efficiency. Now, the licensing for Copilot is $30 a month, and it's $360 a year. And that's a lot of money. We have 50 employees here, $1,500 a month. Oh, give me a break. Now I have to sign up for something like that. That's not in my budget. But I was thinking about this, and employee monthly costs $3,000, $4,000, $5,000, $6,000, and $30 a month. Could I get 1 hour of productivity or more? Would it improve the productivity, the efficiency of my organization? And I will tell you that as I prepared for this presentation, I learned. And I love this chart here, the classic 100 million users going from mobile phones, internet 7 years, Facebook 4.5, and ChatGPT 3 months, like a rocket ship. This stuff I think is real. But I equally love this chart here because it applies technology, starting with the printing press, to gross domestic product, which is a measure of productivity of an economy, which impacts jobs, families, and abundance in an economy. And the GDP multiplier per century right now is approaching 20x. As we move into transistors, PCs, internet, smartphone, cloud, and then AI, productivity increases, and that increases abundance in America. And it also increases the productivity of our organizations. I'll turn it over to Brian here.
Yeah. So Mike, while we might be more productive, the pace and volume of information we're presented with has become overwhelming. So research is showing that 64% of employees are saying they don't have enough time or energy to do their job, being inundated with all of this information. Primary cause is searching for information, navigating inefficient meetings, and endless to-dos. So employees report spending 60% of their time on communicating and coordinating, leaving just 40% of their time left for creation, deep thinking, and collaboration, actually getting some work done. The volume of data, emails, all of that has outpaced our ability to process it, and we call it digital debt that we're taking on. So every minute that you spend on that digital debt, you're not being creative, you're not producing in the workplace, and that is impacting business. So 2 in 3 people are saying they don't have enough time and energy to do their job, and they're 3.5 times more likely to struggle with innovation and strategic thinking. And that's a real challenge in the workplace today.
Yeah, Brian, I'll jump on that though. For everybody on this call, if you want to impress your friends and family and at your next holiday party, haul out that term tech debt or digital debt. It's something I only learned in the last 2-3 months, but it is real. And there are organizations running software that's 25 years old. That is what we call tech debt. We cannot change that. Our own ERP PSA centralized information system was developed 15 years ago. Would we consider a new one? No, we're so deep into this. We're so indebted to this technology. We cannot make a change. And that's the point of our presentation today is there something in Microsoft Copilot or Google Genesis or ChatGPT that could improve the productivity of our organization? Or are we married to digital debt? We're not going to make any changes. We will not change. That's what we're talking about today.
All right, so Copilot for 365. So this is Microsoft's artificial intelligence tool, which integrates securely into your business. So you've probably heard about AI data leakage, right? So this is Microsoft's tool, which is going to allow your queries and research and data that's returned to be secure and not get leaked out into the rest of the internet and train those other models. So data in your organization can be classified so that only appropriate results are returned for employee queries. And let's talk a little bit about governance policy and privacy before we dig into how it works. So what is a governance policy and why is it important? In most organizations, some of your employees may already be using AI in the course of their job. If it's a larger organization, chances are there's a fair number of people already using it. They may be using publicly available free AI engines. They might be putting confidential company or client information into those AI tools to generate information. So that is not secure, and that data can be used to train other public models and then leaked out on the web. So developing company policies and training employees on proper usage will empower them to be more productive and prevent that accidental data leakage. Copilot will crawl your company data and return information and results based on an employee's permissions. So one of the first things that we recommend doing is securing your data environment. So if employees have inadvertent access through accidental permissions to either sensitive financial information, HR information, client information, if they're using an AI tool, those results could be presented to them. They might not know where to find that information on your company network, but if they have permissions to access it, they would be able to access it. A little fun fact about this clip, this slide was actually created by Copilot in PowerPoint, and Mike will talk about that a little bit later. But let's take a look at a short clip that walks through how data classification and permissions work in Office 365.
Microsoft 365 Copilot works with the data security controls you have in place for file access, labeling, classification, and data loss prevention. Mario Rogers works for Violet Martinez, and both are on the same team at Contoso. Mario and Violet are also members in the same group working on Project Falcon. Now we'll start with Violet, who's been working with the procurement and contract management teams to sell their partner ReliCloud 1,500 Mark 8 quadcopters. And you can see the file is labeled highly confidential with restricted access, and it describes all the terms in the purchase agreement. Because Violet has access to the file, she's able to search for and find it in SharePoint and Microsoft365.com. And of course, Violet can also navigate to the file's location in the Agreements folder of the project site to find the purchase agreement. So now let's look at Mario's experience. Even though he's on the same team and working on Project Falcon with Violet, if Mario tries to search for the Contoso purchase agreement, he won't find it. And there are a few purchasing documents that he does find without sensitive information, but not the one that Violet's working on. And if Mario knows the location of the purchase agreement and tries to navigate to it directly, it just appears as an empty folder to him. And when Mario launches Word on the web and creates a blank document, then prompts Microsoft 365 Copilot to summarize the Contoso purchase agreement as a reference file, because Microsoft 365 Copilot respects the file permissions of its user, Copilot also cannot access the purchase agreement. Now, if we switch back to Violet's screen, because she has permission to access the purchase agreement, she can use Microsoft 365 Copilot to summarize the file. And after a moment, you'll see it created a summary of the purchase agreement, and Violet decides to keep it. Then data security controls for Microsoft Purview discover sensitive information found in the Microsoft 365 Copilot generated content. The document is automatically labeled as highly confidential, and policies are enforced to restrict access to the document. Microsoft 365.
All right. Indeed, risk and security is paramount in what Microsoft is doing with 365 and Copilot. Copilot's a powerful tool. We'll pull from the web. We'll pull from your entire Microsoft 365 environment in making sure reviewing that security, high priority. So let's talk about what I call Copilot dialogue, and that is the power to, chat with Copilot and dialogue with Copilot and improve your productivity. What might that look like? Here it is.
Introducing Microsoft 365 Chat, a powerful new capability in Microsoft 365 to solve your most complex problems at work. Let's say you're a marketer at a national chain of home improvement stores, and you need to get the latest on the store opening. You start your day with Copilot, asking what's hot in your inbox today. It does some thinking and gives you an overview of the most pressing items. Great. Looks like the new store opening plans could use your attention. Let's dive in deeper there. Copilot combs through all your recent emails, chats, documents, and meetings, whether you attended them or not, to get you up to speed in moments. It didn't just summarize a single document, it knew what sources to pull from and what information to extract from each. Next, you need to do some market research. Let's say you want some details on square footage and the proximity of competitors to your new location. M365 Chat scours the web, and within seconds, it finds everything you're looking for. And it includes references, so you can easily fact-check the results. You're curious, how does this stack up against the other stores you opened in the past year? Copilot figures out which stores you mean, crunches the numbers, and gives you the answer. Next on your to-do list, finalize the date and speaker for the opening event. You missed the last meeting, and this might have come up in the conversation. Copilot's got you covered, getting you up to speed in seconds. Looks like it was a dynamic discussion, and it's your responsibility to make the final decision. To do that, you need to understand all the factors at play, including the implications they have on your grand opening timeline. Copilot extracts the relevant details and puts them in an organized table, which helps bring the full picture into view. You're not seeing a clear answer, so you ask it to recommend the best date and speaker based on the constraints discussed. It not only understands the constraints, it thinks through the options to help solve your problem. There you go. Now you have a clear recommendation, so you can make the call and notify the team. Now that you've got your opening date, you've got to get the customers excited. Time to write a blog post. You point Copilot to the right files and ask it to pick the top 5 things and make them prominent. Here it goes. Give it a moment. Okay, now you've got a blog post. This store will be the first to unveil your new home improvement concierge service, and you need a catchy tagline. Let's generate some options. This is great for when you've got a case of writer's block. Here we go. These look pretty good. You want to add a blurb on the new store manager and highlight their impressive retail experience. Copilot pulls the information from LinkedIn and puts it in the blog for you. The opening is just around the corner, and you've got to send an email to get the team ready. Now, one of the amazing things about Copilot is you don't need to worry about things like punctuation, spelling, or being super structured in your prompt. You can just give it a total brain dump, as you can see here. And what you'll find is the more context you give it, the better the results. There was a great quote in the store walkthrough video that you want to include, but you don't remember where you last saw it or have time to search for it, let alone rewatch it to find the quote. Based on your quick description, Copilot can find the exact video you're thinking of, extract the quote you wanted, and plugs both the quote and the video into your email. Let's hop over to Outlook to refine the email. So you like the draft, but it doesn't sound like you. Introducing Sound Like Me in Outlook. Now Copilot can personalize any email to match your unique style and voice. It even gets the subtle details right, like how you sign your emails. M365 Chat is a whole new way to work.
I mean, that is mind-numbing and impressive stuff. And I'm not submitting that I'm there yet. We're all on this journey together. I'd be interested to hear from you. Contact Brian, contact me, Marcus, Brittany. Contact us, tell us your stories. I'll turn it over to Brian, talk a minute about Teams.
Yes, Copilot and Teams. So here we have some cool features for everybody's favorite part of the workday, meetings. So with Copilot and Teams, if you miss a meeting or you forget what was discussed or you lose your notes, you can review a summary recap, which was created by Copilot. If it'll net out your discussion points, the decisions that were made in the meeting and any to-dos in the recap. If you have a meeting that you're unable to attend, you can choose to follow the meeting. And that sends you this information proactively, so that kind of tell somebody that you're not going to be there, but you're interested, you want to follow it, you need to know, you'll get that information sent to you. A feature that I learned about is that in a live meeting, you can ask Copilot if there were any discussion points already talked about that were undecided. So you can kind of use it to kind of recap a live meeting that you're going through also. The next slide kind of goes through recap a little bit more. So intelligent recap gives you insights into the meeting, so you can pick out areas or topics of interest. So let's say you weren't able to attend a meeting, it was a long meeting, you don't want to sit through it. You can see a timeline of what was covered in the meeting by the speaker, by who was speaking, or the topic that was discussed. Drill into that section of the meeting and review the recording. So you can save a lot of time by reviewing only the piece of the meeting that's of interest to you. You can see your follow-up tasks, your next steps that were decided, and you can ask Copilot open-ended questions about the meeting if you're looking for specific information that was discussed. So now let's take a look at a clip of Copilot for Teams in action.
Imagine you have an appointment that conflicts with your weekly business review. What if you could do both? With Copilot, you can opt to follow a meeting. After the meeting ends, Copilot will summarize what you missed. You'll get a notification in Teams when the recap is ready. This recap will highlight content that was shared, summarize notes, and any action items for you or others whose names were mentioned. You see that one of your customers was discussed, and you want to learn more. You can ask Copilot clarifying questions, and it provides a detailed response. It can tell you why a certain decision was made, and gives you helpful context. You can even ask Copilot what other solutions were considered, and it provides citations from the transcript so you can see where Copilot drew these conclusions. It's a huge time saver. So that was pretty cool. But the real magic of Copilot happens during a live meeting. Let's say you're in a meeting with your team. You can ask Copilot to summarize the meeting so far. You can see how it summarizes who said what points were made, and it's really capturing the spirit of the discussion. And as the meeting progresses, you can check in on where people stand. You can even ask Copilot what questions are unresolved. It's just amazing to see this happen in real time during a meeting.
All right, Outlook, this is fun for me. This is a little bit mind-numbing. Again, we're on this journey together, we're learning, and some of you on this call are ahead, you're like, this is elementary stuff. And for some of us, this is amazing stuff. So what Copilot can do in Outlook is fascinating and educational to me. I was talking to a peer over the weekend who has a startup company that now has 65 employees. And he said, I require all of my employees to run any external email through Copilot. And that's for professionalism, for grammar, for content. That's interesting. We're not doing that at i3, but certainly if you're not using spell check and grammar check in your browser, in Outlook, in Word, turn those settings on. That's the early days of AI. The advanced days of AI are using Copilot to help you write emails.
Copilot in Outlook can help you prioritize your time and stay on top of meetings. Here you've been invited to a meeting that conflicts with the meeting you're planning to attend. Clearly, you can only attend one. From the meeting invite, you can choose to RSVP with follow. Switching over to your calendar, you can see that you're now following this meeting. Once the meeting starts on Teams, the organizer will receive a notification to record the meeting because someone is following it. Now, after the meeting is done and the recording is ready, Copilot will notify you that the meeting recap is ready for you to review. You can then ask Copilot some questions about the meeting, like, summarize this meeting, or are there any action items for me? That way you can stay on top of things as if you were present during the meeting.
Okay, Copilot and Word, I have an example of this later. And again, the power of Copilot in Word and PowerPoint is amazing. Let's watch how you can use Copilot and Word to get things started and to execute more effectively. Like Brian mentioned earlier in the statistics, somewhere around, I think 43 or 47% of our time is spent creating. We're trying to build new things and deliver new things. Here's an example of how Copilot can help in Word.
When you've written a paragraph in shorthand, you can highlight it and click Rewrite. Copilot then offers several alternate options to choose from that are all written professionally. And it can translate wordy or complex paragraphs into digestible visualized tables. You can even use Copilot to add a column with extra data, which it can complete automatically. Copilot also makes you the expert on any document. Simply ask a question about the content, and Copilot will provide a concise response.
So here's my example of that. I was sitting in a meeting a couple of weeks ago, and we're putting two companies together here, CompuCraft and i3 Business Solutions. And the way that we communicate is different. The way that we use Teams and email and Teams chat and Teams channels. And we said, we should clarify that to the organization. How do we use these various tools? And I said, I was sitting there in the meeting and I thought, I can do this with the Copilot. So I said, I'll get this thing started. And if somebody else wants to pull it forward, that's fine with me. I don't want to own the whole project. So while I was in the meeting, I typed, write a company communication plan for the proper use of email, Teams chat, Teams channels, meetings, phone calls, and direct conversations. And within 60 seconds, Copilot starts marching out this information. It's fun to watch it scroll, isn't it? Just watch it go to work. And that got me started. I mean, I would have been searching the web and trying to find ideas, maybe contacting some people. Do you have an internal communication plan? But bang, within 60 seconds to 2 minutes, I have this project started. And I iterated it. Actually, if I go back, I iterated it again and said, okay, now add the use of carbon copy, the use of broadcast emails to everybody in the company. And I had probably had a total of an hour to 45 minutes into it after coming back to it a couple times. But we had communication standards, department standards, content standards, and I'm handing it off. And I have a total of 45 minutes into it rather than, 4 to 8 hours or so. Very powerful, very powerful. So this is fascinating to me. I'll turn it over to Brian to talk about Excel.
Yeah, Copilot and Excel. So Excel, a very powerful tool that most of us wish we were better with. At least I do. I'm a relatively infrequent Excel user. So when I'm attempting to do anything beyond the basics, it's pretty painful for me. With Copilot, you can make changes, data manipulation, using natural language requests, like highlight cells that have this property or this attribute. You can create complex formulas. Copilot will show you the formula based on your request, and then you can fine-tune that and adjust it if needed. You can do advanced things like creating pivot tables from data to generate charts and do advanced analytics with Python and Excel. Show data insights is a cool feature that will uncover underlying trends or outliers in your data sets. Let's take a look at the data visualization with Copilot and Excel.
Python in Excel brings the world of Excel and Python analytics together, and now Copilot is here to help you along the way. With the new PY function, you can use powerful Python libraries right within your Excel workbook to create compelling plots and visualizations, train machine learning models, and other advanced analytics. With Copilot, you don't need to be an expert. All you need are simple prompts. Want to estimate your future sales? Copilot can generate forecasts using one of the multiple Python libraries available through Python in Excel. You can then better understand and visualize the data by requesting a chart. With Copilot, you can create Python visualizations like multiplots to see how variables relate to each other, or use powerful data cleansing techniques such as regex to apply consistent formatting to your data. Or apply machine learning models. Copilot brings the rich capabilities of Python in Excel to your fingertips.
Sorry, folks, that one, I don't know why the audio was quieter on that, and it's too bad because it talked a lot about Python. By a show of hands, how many know what Python is? Well, I'll ask Brian to comment in a minute, but Python is a programming language that they've now put into Excel. And that's fascinating to me. I'll talk about this in a few minutes, but do I really care that they put Python, the py command, into Excel? And do I want to be a Python specialist, a py command specialist? Like Brian said, I'm an amateur with Excel also. I've spent a lifetime trying to figure out how to do pivot tables. I've given up. But the point is that the power of Excel gets more and more powerful as they integrate actual programming languages into it. It's a little bit mind-numbing, but that's part of what's happening here with AI and Copilot is we're putting tools in the hands of people where with natural language, they can do what we spent tens of thousands of dollars. And bad news, you used to pay companies like i3 Business Solutions a lot of money to help you do that. These powerful tools are going right into the applications, right, Brian?
Yeah, it's really empowering people to do things that, you know, they struggled with or they didn't have the ability or needed a specialist, really be able to do more and do it a lot faster. Absolutely. So Copilot in OneNote. So some companies are heavy users of OneNote. Here at i3, we keep a fair bit of information in OneNote notebooks as well. Everything from, you know, meetings to projects to company plans, maybe even notes, customer notes. So Copilot in OneNote can summarize content. It can create to-do lists from maybe a meeting that you took notes on, or it can rewrite notes or a paragraph or an idea for clarity. So rewrite is some of the things that we looked at in a couple of different apps with Copilot. You can create new content from existing data, whether that's an existing notebook or external data. So you could create an event plan based on a discussion or presentation ideas based on a business concept. In search, it can aggregate information from different notebooks. And you can also generate content based on data sources that are outside of OneNote, but other company data that you have stored in the Office 365 environment. Mike, you're gonna talk about PowerPoint.
Sure, this is interesting to me. And, you know, we're in the early stages of AI and Copilot. And I've got a couple slides coming up here where I asked Copilot to create the slide. And, you know, I had a picture in my head, you'll see it, of exactly what I wanted. But Copilot couldn't read my mind, and it failed terribly with the PowerPoint graphical presentation that I wanted to create for a couple slides. But it is very powerful, Copilot in PowerPoint. I'm going to turn it over to Brian to talk about licensing.
So yeah, let's talk about the differences between Copilot 3 and Copilot for M365. So got a little chart here of kind of the foundational differences. So the foundational capabilities, they both have basic chat and answer capability, right? The free version is going to have limits on usage, the amount of data returned, and performance queues. So you'll get queued up or maybe won't be able to use it during busy times. Some of the significant differences that we look at are the enterprise-grade data protection, right? So the tagging and classification of data that prevents it from being returned in a query that it shouldn't be. Graph grounding, so that's protection of all of the API connections to other data sources that you have. The Microsoft 365 apps, so that's what we've been covering a lot of today. So all those native integrations with your Office suite applications, those connections are only going to be in Copilot for 365 and Copilot Studio. So that is a more advanced iteration of Copilot where you can customize Copilot for your own enterprise scenarios, whether it's like a chatbot or it's answering employee questions about maybe HR or something like that. So Copilot for 365, as Mike mentioned, $30 per user per month. And when it came out, it like Mike said, it seems like, wow, that's a lot, that's expensive. But then when you think about the productivity savings, it starts to make sense. So at launch, Copilot was only available to enterprises with a minimum of 300 seats to buy. So it's now generally available. You can buy a single license, $30 a user a month. It does have a 1-year commitment, so keep that in mind. It's not something that you can do for a month. We're going to send out some links following this. They're going to have some more information on training, getting started resources, and more information if you want to learn more.
All right, thank you, Brian. And yeah, if you have any questions, put them in the comment field. We're going to have some time for questions. We moved through this faster than I expected. Let's talk about the 5 first steps we recommend. And we do recommend creating a governance policy to just set some best practices for AI use in your organization. Another buzzword term you can use at your holiday parties, shadow IT. All of our organizations have shadow IT of some sort. What is that? Users going out and using tools on the web that were not provided or standardized by the organization. And Copilot, I would just submit that AI has that potential. People are using it in your company, I think, right now. So to take a minute and create a policy to convey it, to get started with that, you can use Copilot to write that policy. Or you can contact i3 and we can help you with that policy. And we'll use Copilot to write that policy. So then secondly, encourage use of Copilot. Licensed or unlicensed. I had a slide earlier. When you open Copilot in the Edge browser, which you can log into with Microsoft 365, now you're protecting the browser in your information, what's shared outside on the web, or you search inside the company. You can use Copilot licensed or unlicensed. Brian just went through the various details on that. Educate your team. Goes along with governance, but I'm certainly saying, Brian and I are saying, your team's using it, encourage the use of it. We think it has power for your organization. And then number 4, schedule a Copilot briefing with i3 Business Solutions. We will coordinate 3, 4, or 5 companies, do more of a dialogue and talk about exactly what's going on in your organization and how it could help you. So you're welcome, and we will follow up and offer that a direct briefing for 3 to 5 companies in a more intimate fashion. And then number 4, security. I'll ask Brian for a comment here. Are we going to put this number 1 and say, don't do anything, don't use AI until you do a readiness, a security assessment? No, we're not. We believe it's happening. We believe there's great potential here. But should you do a readiness assessment, a security assessment of who has access to what in your organization? Yes, highly recommend that. The security from Microsoft, from Exchange to Windows Server to SharePoint to Teams, has changed over the last 20 years. And making sure that you have your Office 365 environment set up properly to protect your data, your proprietary data, is very important. Those are our 5 recommended first steps. Brian's, any comments there?
No, yep, I agree with security. You know, a lot of people have misconfigured environments inadvertently, so it's good to identify that. Especially it depends on the nature of the company. If you have data that's extremely sensitive, or there's only maybe a couple areas of data that you really want to look at, just check the permissions on those before you turn people loose and go crazy. But yeah, get started, you know, use it for jump starts, like jump starting ideas, right? So like some of the examples that Mike gave, creating a policy document or drafting something new that you've never done before. So Copilot's probably not going to do it perfect for you, but it's going to give you a great head start and kind of get that writer's block out of the way and get you moving.
Yeah, and Brian, you mentioned there are a couple of settings inside Office that you can go into the admin console and set to start protecting data, correct? So if they contact i3, we can help them with that.
Yep. So in your Office 365 environment, there's tenant settings that can make sure that, you know, your employees are logged in using their business account and their chat sessions are protected based on the privacy controls that you've configured.
Very good. All right, so this is the slide that I asked. I wanted Copilot to read my mind and create this slide, and I asked it to pull out a typing pool from the 50s, and it didn't do it. So I had to search and find these images. But this is your opportunity and challenge. I say we're on this journey together. Many of us are lifelong learners, and I love this stuff. I love it. At i3, we rail against islands of information. We love intelligent information integration, i3. And Microsoft 365 is one of those intelligent information repositories that we can search and protect our organization. Generally, our ERP, our PSA system is the other one. But if you go back 70 years now, we had typewriters, and people, all they did for a living was type. And then eventually we ended up with assistants or secretaries helping executives. I never had one in my whole career, but I did use an IBM Selectric typewriter, which had that amazing ball that was faster than a manual typewriter. And by the way, it had backspace correct, and it would white out like that. I had a friend, Paul, that said he can type at 140 words a minute, but 73 of them are backspace whiteout. So next came, you know, Microsoft Word's early iterations, and it continued to improve to the point that we then had templates and the availability to pull from databases and have a pre-created letter. And this is when the assistant started fading out. I don't know about you. I do not have an assistant. If I need to write a letter, I just open up the letterhead and bang that thing out, pull out a template and do it. Some of you are sitting there saying, I haven't written a letter in my lifetime. Well, okay, I get your point. So today, here we are, we're doing all this ourselves. Is there an opportunity for technology to march on and actually use Copilot and accelerate the results? Yes, I think there is. You know, I've got a copy of my father's ledger book from his business, Ritsema Brothers Plastering, 70 years ago. And many of us have seen the old crank calculators with paper, and then the calculator with the adding machine, the calculator, and then Excel came along. And Excel is so powerful today that it integrates to databases and pulls information. And what will the potential be with Copilot? So I think as we look at digital debt and say, are we going to stay back in the calculator? Are we going to stay in the Excel age? Would we actually move forward to integration? Is there potential in Copilot? And what I learned in preparing for this presentation, yeah, there's a lot of potential. Are we going to stay with our tech debt and say, well, I'm just going to open a spreadsheet and use the equal sign every time? Or am I going to actually take a risk and try something new? I remember when I started at IBM as a business partner, we actually used foil overhead projectors for presentations. And we had a specialist that would make them, would say, here's what I need. And they'd make these beautiful foils, and we'd do presentations manually like this. But as PowerPoint came out, you still needed a specialist. You wanted somebody to create that PowerPoint, create graphics. And eventually PowerPoint got to the point where it had templates. It has Designer today. You can create powerful PowerPoints yourself. You don't have to pay an expensive assistant or firm or programmer to create these things. And what is the next step for that? So that is technology marches on. AI is coming. It is nothing more than an extension of technology. It is up to us to figure out how it will help our organizations be more productive and more profitable before our competitors do it. That is the opportunity that we have right now. What that looks like is, by the way, I don't know if anybody on this call is using Power Apps, Power BI, Power Automate, Power Virtual Agents. But this is low-code programming in your environment where you can actually pull data out of databases using these tools. Again, this is the stuff that 10 years ago, 5 years ago, we're paying tens of thousands of dollars for people to do. But somebody that's passionate could actually learn PowerPoint and templates or Excel and the PY command might be the person that says, let me play with some of this stuff, because it is user-friendly. It empowers the end user. And what Microsoft is doing is wrapping all of that with an AI builder called Copilot. Brian, any comments on that?
No, I mean, that's pretty much it, Mike. It's gonna allow you to do more, be more efficient, go faster. Your employees can spend less time doing kind of menial, busy work tasks and do the heavy lifting that makes them good at what they do.
Absolutely. That's what we're trying to accomplish in business. So technology marches on, embrace the changes and the risk. There's risk in change, and it's up to each of our organizations to figure that out. I'm going to ask, we'll get to the drawing with Brittany momentarily. She'll announce the winners. I would submit that surveys, we will send a follow-up survey, ask you to reply to that. Would be grateful for that. More resources, we try to put it in the chat. I'm not sure you can click on those links, so that will be part of the survey. Follow-up will give you more resources to follow up. And Brittany, are you there?
Yes, I'm here. I want to start by announcing our third place winner, who just won the award for a $50 Amazon gift card, and that is Nicholas Miller from Hanson International. Nicholas, we do have your email, so we'll reach out to you. That's for all of our winners. We have no action on your end. We will reach out to you. For our second place winner, that is a $100 Amazon gift card, goes to Jimmy Costello with AGS Company. So congratulations. And then our first place winner, you get a choice of either a MetaQuest 3, or you can choose to opt out of that and go for a $250 Amazon gift card. And that goes to Cameron Van Wingarden from Plainfield Charter Township. So congratulations to our winners.
All right. Thank you, Brittany, and thank you for those of you that stayed through the whole presentation. Any comments, questions, feel free to email us. And go ye therefore, embrace AI, Copilot, and improve the productivity of your company.